The Pope condemns Israeli terrorism in Gaza. I'm going to read what he's saying. I'm going to translate what the Pope is saying. Rest in power to the Pope. I continue to receive from Gaza very serious and painful news. Unarmed civilians are the target of bombings and gunfire. This has even happened within the compound of the Holy Family Parish. Wait, this is from literally 2023. Where there are no terrorists, only families, children, people who are sick and have disabilities, and nuns. A mother and her daughter, Mrs. Nahida Khalil Anton, and her daughter Samar Kamal Anton, were killed and injured, and others were injured by snipers as they walked to the bathroom. The house of the Sisters of Mother Teresa was damaged, and their generator was hit. Some say this is terrorism, this is war. Yes, it is war. It is terrorism. Here's some more takes. This is from 3 months ago, from December 2024, or longer than I guess. With pain, I think of Gaza, of so much cruelty, of children being machine gunned, of the bombings of schools and hospitals. What cruelty. Al Jazeera did an entire piece on Pope Francis in Palestine. The pontiff spoke out in support of Gaza during the war.
When it came to the Palestinians...
He's anti-Semitic. Yeah, no, the Pope is Hamas. Yes, I've said this before. Yes, he is. The Pope is, of course, anti-Semitic and Hamas, obviously. Duh.
Pope Francis was arguably the most supportive pope in modern times. In the aftermath of October 2023, a little more than a month into the war in Gaza, he said what Israel was doing was terrorism, and the humanitarian crisis there could be considered a genocide.
This morning I received two delegations, one of Israelis who have relatives held hostage in the Gaza Strip, and another of Palestinians who have relatives imprisoned in Israel. They suffer so much, and I heard how both sides suffer. Wars do this, but we have gone beyond wars. This is not war. This is terrorism.
For an institution that for centuries used papal decrees to legitimize territorial expansion and European colonialism, and in modern times remained neutral on the Israel-Palestine conflict, Pope Francis's comments were a radical departure from the Church's legacy and its usual stance, but consistent with his reformist papacy and commitment to social justice.
Yesterday children were bombed. This is cruelty. This is not war.
Pope Francis did not stop at words. He reached out.
Yeah, he put the Christmas nativity scene and had baby Jesus in a keffiyeh. That was also another thing that pissed off Israel supporters. Yeah. Pope Francis has now unveiled the Vatican's annual nativity scene, and this year it is featuring baby Jesus cradled in a Palestinian keffiyeh.
Out directly to those suffering in Gaza with frequent video calls. Nearly every night since Israel's bombing campaign began, he called the Holy Family Church in Gaza, which sheltered hundreds of Christians and Muslims. The brief calls were a small but powerful gesture, the Vatican said, offering connection and hope amidst isolation.
Yesterday I called, as I do every day, the parish in Gaza. They told me, today we ate lentils with chicken. It's important because these days they weren't used to it and only made some vegetables. They were happy, but let us pray for Gaza, for peace.
In his final days, even in critical condition, he stayed in touch with the Gaza parish.
Yeah, the nativity scene was also constructed out of Palestinian olive wood and was donated from Bethlehem. Very powerful imagery.
We rejoice to hear his voice. This is part
of the reason why I felt like normally I would do a R.I.P. Bozo, you know, smoking on that pack or whatever. This is Dylan Saba, who was with you in D.C., has family in Gaza, who the Pope called every night. Oh, I didn't know that. What I was going to say is like, this is one of the reasons why I was like, it's kind of sad, you know? I mean, he lived a long life. He was quite impactful. And I think try to do his very best in that process. But, you know, it's not like this is a sad moment for sure.
Comforting, knowing that despite his delicate state of health, he continues to think and pray for everyone.
By the way, if you notice the buzzing sound in the background, that's the sound of a drone.
For peace in Gaza, and thanking us at the same time for our constant prayers give us great joy even in the midst of so many trials.
And months before his passing, Pope Francis appointed the first new cardinal of Palestinian origin to the College of Cardinals. When the world's most powerful leaders failed to act, many offering unquestioning support to Israel or remaining silent in the face of massacre after massacre, people in Gaza will remember Pope Francis for seeing their suffering clearly and speaking of it plainly. A rare moral voice rising above political calculation. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera.
Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Javier Abu Eid, who is a political analyst and a former PLO advisor. He joins us from Ramallah. Thanks again for being with us here on Al Jazeera. First of all, can you just give us a sense of how his death will be viewed in the region, especially as such a strong ally of Palestinian people?
Thank you, Tom. As we've been saying this morning, it's a very sad day for Palestinians in general. And he was someone who, not just with Palestine, but also with the rest of the region, he tried his best to create bridges, to build bridges with the Arab and Muslim worlds. I don't remember any other pope who visited Arab countries as much as he did during his mandate. And there were several gestures that he made, not just from the religious perspective, where
2014 on the separation wall, I think, right? What does it say here? Warsaw Ghetto. Interesting. But that's in 2014. And from what I understand, history started on October 7th, 2023. No? That's interesting. That comparison has been made. Someone needs to take down this anti-Semitic graffiti.
During his mandate. And there were several gestures that he made, not just from the religious perspective, where remember that he is the one who canonized the last two Palestinian saints, Maria Alfonsine Ghattas and Mariam al-Bawardi, but also he's the Pope who recognized the state of Palestine. He's someone who tried to make use of the moral power of the Holy See to advance a political agenda where, under his own words, there was no possibility to have peace without justice. He always called for a just peace and for the state of Palestine that he, as I just said, recognized.
As you've been talking, we've been watching pictures from his 2014 visit to Bethlehem and the stance he took next to the separation wall. I understand you were there at the time and saw that unfold. That must have been incredibly powerful. Can you just give us a sense of the impact, the vast impact that had at the time?
Tom, I think it was extremely powerful because even though the International Court of Justice had referred to the wall back in 2004 as illegal and that it had to be destroyed, I don't remember any world leader, particularly any Western leader, that took time to go to the wall itself and to have a picture there. I know that even though he was there to pray, there was a very clear political message that the Holy See was delivering. I myself, I was there, as you just said, and I exchanged a few words in Spanish with Pope Francis, and Pope Francis was very clear to me. For me, that was the top of the story when he told me, "My dear son, I know very well what's going on here." Those words were back in 2014. We should not forget that the Holy...
Someone just said, is Bibi going to persuade the cardinals to vote for a pro-Israel pope? That is the funniest take. If you think that any sort of outside influence, specifically coming from America or Israel, is going to motivate the Catholic Church, you are wrong. It will have the exact opposite influence. That is so funny to think. I mean, dude, come on. Nope. It will have the opposite impact. Guys, this is the Catholic Church we're talking about. Let's be real. I feel as though this is definitely an institution that has, how do I put this in gentle terms, calcified and quite outdated views on Jews that are not so fond of Jewish people. Like, definitely not saying this Pope is like that at all, but, you know, throughout history, they haven't done nice things to Jewish people in general.
See, it's not a pro-Palestinian institution. There are different positions within the Holy See. And even though it's true that initially, if we are talking 100 years ago, 80 years ago, the Holy See opposed the Zionist project in Palestine, opposed the Balfour Declaration. At the end, it started to take a position which was more kind of neutral. And some popes, for example, Pope John Paul II, when he appointed the first Palestinian patriarch to Jerusalem during the beginning of the First Intifada, Patriarch Michel Sabah, that gave a very strong gesture, just like Pope Francis tried to do. And yeah, it's true that he also appointed the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, who's not a Palestinian, he's an Italian, but who's someone who has been here for many years and who understands very well the realities on the ground. This was also, I think, a gesture for the whole region.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there, Javier, but thank you so much for talking us through all of that, Javier Abu Eid, for us in Ramallah.
Thank you, Tom.